At this point in the game, Hans Niemann had thrown away not one, not two, not three, but a huge 4-point lead. This was Hans Niemann's first return to any elite competition after being accused of cheating. Other players were fighting for the title, but he was fighting for something more than that: his reputation. After some games, the contest was fast slipping away from the young American, and to make matters worse, it was not just against any player, but Maxim. For context, Max was the only player to eliminate Magnus Carlsen in a speed chess championship. He defied the odds in 2020 as he defeated the 5-time world champion to reach the 2020 speed chess championship final. What this simply means is a comeback for this game for Hans is literally impossible. Let's make something clear. Before this competition, Hans had always complained he was not getting invitation to tournaments to play against top players, and he felt organizations were conniving to destroy his chess career. He always screamed that he needed one chance to prove himself and for his chess to speak for itself. He always bragged of being able to defeat anyone and even claimed he would become a world champion like Bobby Fischer. So at this point in the game, on the verge of losing his 5th point after letting a 4-point lead slip, he was not only throwing away the only chance he got to redeem his image. This defeat means he would have to eat all his words and deal with the reality that he was not just good enough for the big boys, and also he would have to deal with the hanging reputation of him being a cheater. A closer look at the situation shows the commentators on the match were a bit professional and were also careful so their words would not appear to be against Hans Niemann. The comment section was a different story entirely. It was a blazing inferno. Many fans laughed at Hans Niemann, and the worst of them all, most people kept calling him the word Hans Niemann had been battling to erase off his name: cheater, a name that has stung onto his reputation like his last name. To understand how much of a big deal this game Hans Niemann is currently letting away is, we need to go back in time to the Sinkfield Cup, when Hans Niemann did the unforgettable, when he stunned Magnus Carlsen with the black pieces. This was meant to be a thing of joy for the young American then, but as people began to take a closer look, there were many questions raised. When Hans defeated Magnus Carlsen, many could not believe it was real. It was not because Magnus Carlsen was a player that could not be defeated, but never had he lost with the white pieces in the manner he had lost against Hans. It was complete dominance. To make matters worse, Magnus Carlsen dropped a statement accusing Hans Niemann of cheating. People online started to dig deep to confirm Carlsen's claim, and truth be told, they found something really unusual, which gathered a lot of attention from many people across the chess world. During the post-match conference after Hans defeated Magnus, he was asked to explain the variation he used against Magnus Carlsen. But rather than giving detailed analysis, what he said was not convincing one bit. In fact, he even claimed that by some miracle, he studied the exact opening Magnus played in that game.
But I checked this today, by miracle, yeah.
You had this exact position?
Yeah,
what?
Even farther, but...
I have to ask you, come on, what prompted you, out of all the variations, to choose this one? I don't think that Magnus has ever played this before.
Hans' response after this was unbelievable. He said Magnus Carlsen had actually played this opening in a particular tournament, but when people digged it up, it was discovered that Magnus Carlsen did not even play in the tournament Hans Niemann mentioned in the interview. That should have been the final nail in the coffin. But the only saving grace for Hans Niemann was that it was later discovered that Magnus Carlsen actually played the opening in another competition, but in a transposition, which partially confirmed Hans Niemann's claim. So, people cut him some slack. After the claim was partially debunked, it did not take long for people online to start analyzing all of Hans Niemann's post-game interview. And truth be told, they found something really awkward. Hans Niemann's level of analysis was way below the level at which he played during the competition, which raised a lot of red flags. This gave birth to a conspiracy that he was using anal beads to receive signals during the game. This submission went viral, and it even got the attention of Elon Musk. Though this submission was viral, real chess experts were not buying it. Just when a good number of people who were on the fence were about to accept Hans Niemann did not cheat, and were even about to call out Magnus Carlsen for making a huge mistake by accusing Hans Niemann of cheating, in came a huge evidence which was bigger than everything that had been said before. It was a 72-page report by chess.com which confirmed Hans Niemann cheated online in the past and was banned on their platform at some point in time. Even though the report did not affirm Hans Niemann cheated against Magnus Carlsen, exposing Hans Niemann's dark past contributed a lot to people not giving him a benefit of doubt. Hans fired back with a lawsuit, but it was dismissed and all the issues were settled out of court. But one thing was left unresolved, which was Hans Niemann's reputation as a cheater. The word cheater in the context of Hans Niemann's rise to fame as a chess player contributed as equally as his chess skill. Even though there was no evidence to prove he cheated, there seems to be a consensus by the chess world that time will tell if he cheated or not. The hypotheses were simple. If Hans could replicate his performance under different circumstances, that means he did not cheat. But if he struggled to perform under different circumstances, that means he most likely cheated. Here we are at the Speed Chess Championship in 2024, and Hans Niemann is almost getting smoked by Max. He is losing the grip of a match he had total control of. And to make matters worse, in this position, Hans Niemann made a move that sent a shocking wave throughout the chess world. This is a move that we would never forget, and this move would definitely stand the test of time. At this point in the game in the Speed Chess Championship in 2024, the score was even between Max and Hans Niemann, 11.5 to 11.5. The two players needed just a win to move to the next round. Hans Niemann started the game on a very high note. He had the white pieces, which meant he had a slight advantage. The game opened with the main line of the Sicilian defense. Hans Niemann's strategy in the opening is to play for the center, trying his best to ensure black does not equalize. After occupying the center, he pushes forward with e5. Rather than taking the pawn, Maxim takes his knight out of the way, and Hans plunges forward again with e6. We get the exchange of pawn, then Hans brings his queen to e6. In this position, white has the initiative. The knight steps in as well, threatening the royal fork. For this reason, Maxim had to give up his rook. Hans was up materials from this point on in the game till we get to this critical position. Hans Niemann had the advantage and the initiative all along, but it seems he's now in huge trouble. Any wrong move in this position marks an end to his run and would put a huge question mark on his reputation as a legitimate chess player. Looking at his clock, he had only 9 seconds to decide his fate. Evaluating the position, Hans must find the only move that saves his position if he wants to win the game. Looking at the board, the rook and the queen are both combining on the g2 pawn, threatening checkmate. The rook cannot be captured as it is protected by the bishop. So what was the move? The question hung in the air, begging for an answer. What happened next was unbelievable. Hans played an unusual move that shocked both Anish and Daniel Naroditsky commenting on the game.
Knocking on the door, queen d5, rook b3, rook b2, rook b2, don't blunder mate. Oh my gosh! And he's blundered his queen. Oh my gosh! And he's blundered his queen. Oh my gosh! And he's blundered his queen.
Yes, you heard them correctly. Hans blundered his queen, and the bishop sniped it off the board as quickly as possible. At this point, Hans Niemann's fate seemed sealed as the commentator's voice dripped with disdain. It was all over for him. He blew away his chances, but just as everyone was about to conclude there was no coming back from Hans, a sudden spark of uncertainty flickered across the evaluation board. The evaluation bar was not buying any of the reaction from the commentators nor the fans. It still showed the position was winning for Hans. But how? Didn't Hans Niemann just blunder? Well, it turns out upon further analysis that giving up the queen in that position was not a blunder, but a brilliant move. The sacrifice was the only way to save the position. Any other move would have been game over. So after the sacrifice, Hans Niemann played bishop to f2, increasing the pressure on the knight's pin to the queen. Maxim responds by attacking the rook on e1, but that was too late as Hans Niemann chopped off the knight and also attacked the queen. The queen moves back on the same file as the king, and it was pinned to the rook. Looking at this position, everything is falling apart, and Maxim, left with no other option, resigns.